60 years ago, a pistol cocked in the blazing Italian sun, and the whole world leaned in. There was something in the squint, the silence, the slow burn of those three men facing each other in the dust that you didn't just watch, you felt it. The actors who created that moment became faces the entire planet recognized. But what happened to the people behind those faces once the cameras stopped rolling? Let's find out what became of them all. Clint Eastwood as Blondie. The man who squinted into 1,000 sunsets was 36 years old when Sergio Leone pointed a camera at him on the baked plains of Almeria, Spain. Clint Eastwood, billed simply as Blondie, the Good, brought to that film a kind of loaded stillness that no amount of acting school could teach. He didn't perform cool, he inhabited it. In 2026, Clint Eastwood is 95 years old, with an estimated net worth of $375 million, built not just from starring in films, but from directing 40 of them, producing dozens more, and owning the production company Malpaso Productions that gave him control most actors only dream about. Before the Dollars trilogy made him a global icon, Eastwood was widely considered a fading television face. 8 seasons as Rowdy Yates on Rawhide had given him visibility, but not prestige. American studios passed on the Leone films entirely. Too strange, too foreign, too slow. Eastwood flew to Italy anyway, earning a flat fee of $15,000 for A Fistful of Dollars. After this film, he didn't disappear into the machinery of stardom, he bought the machinery. Dirty Harry turned him into box office royalty. Unforgiven won him the Academy Award for Best Director in 1992, and $1 Million Baby won him a second. A catalog of films across 6 decades still generates income on every continent, and the company he founded in 1967 still carries his name. Blondie may have been a man with no name, but Clint Eastwood spent 60 years building one of the most recognizable names in the history of cinema. There are 2 kinds of people in the world, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig. Eli Wallach as Tuco, the most classically trained actor in the entire film, arrived on the plains of Spain in 1965, and he nearly didn't make it home. Eli Wallach was 50 years old when he stepped into the role of Tuco Benedicto Pacifico Juan Maria Ramirez, the Ugly, carrying with him a Tony Award, a decade on the New York stage, and a co-starring credit alongside Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable in The Misfits. Sadly, Eli Wallach left us on June 24, 2014, at the age of 98, one of the longest lives in this cast, and one of the most fully lived. Before Leone called, Wallach had almost turned down Tuco entirely, unsure whether a broad Italian-produced Western was worth his time. His wife, actress Ann Jackson, the partner of a 66-year marriage, reportedly told him to take it. She was right. That hint of danger in the introduction was not theatrical. During a scene where Tuco is bound to the tracks of a moving train, a line of passing cargo cars sliced through the air less than a foot above Wallach's face, close enough that crew members watching went pale on the spot. He finished the scene, came back the next morning, and filmed another one. After the film, he worked continuously for 5 more decades. A supporting role in The Godfather Part 3, a memorable turn in The Holiday, and a late career spotlight in Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps, at the age of 95. Tuco scrambled through the desert, chasing gold he could barely hold on to. But Eli Wallach, the man who survived a runaway train, a runaway career, and 98 years of life, had already found something worth more. Lee Van Cleef as Angel Eyes. Van Cleef knew that feeling of near miss all too well. Not on a film set, but in the wreckage of a career that Hollywood had walked away from entirely. The face that launched 1,000 villains belonged to a man who grew up in Somerville, New Jersey, with those deeply set eyes and that jaw carved from stone, a silhouette so specific that casting directors saw only one use for it. Lee Van Cleef was 40 years old when Leone cast him as the cold, methodical, utterly terrifying Angel Eyes. Sadly, Lee Van Cleef died on December 16, 1989, of a heart attack at his home in Oxnard, California. He was 64 years old, and the full measure of recognition his talent deserved never quite arrived before he was gone. Before Leone called, Van Cleef's career had collapsed so completely that he had taken up carpentry to pay the bills. Hundreds of television westerns had typecast him so thoroughly as a heavy that leading roles stopped coming. By the early 1960s, he was seriously considering walking away from acting altogether when the phone rang from Rome. Leone saw what Hollywood had thrown away. He cast Van Cleef as Angel Eyes and then immediately hired him again for a few dollars more, this time as a co-lead. European audiences embraced him with a warmth American casting directors had never bothered to offer. He made more than 30 films in the decade that followed, working constantly in a genre that finally matched the gravity of his face. A career that nearly ended in a woodshop in California became an international second act that most actors would trade their entire first act for. Angel Eyes never blinked, and neither did Lee Van Cleef, who stared down an industry that had forgotten him and built an entirely new career out of the rubble. If you work for a living, why do you kill yourself working? Aldo Giuffre as the Union Captain. There are performances in great films that exist almost entirely in the margins, quiet, essential, easily missed. Aldo Giuffre found one of those in this film, playing a barely functioning Union captain, drowning his grief in whiskey at a crossroads no one cares about anymore. It is a small role, but Giuffre feels every second of it with a kind of crumpled, specific sorrow, a slight tremble in the voice, the particular way a man holds a bottle when it's the only thing holding him up, that makes the entire Civil War feel real in under 2 minutes of screen time. Sadly, Aldo Giuffre passed away in 2010 at the age of 81, having spent the decades following this film working steadily and without fanfare in Italian cinema and theater. Before Leone's film, Giuffre had built a substantial career on the Italian stage, trained in the classical tradition, and brought that discipline to every part he touched, no matter the size. He appeared in dozens of Italian productions through the 1970s and 1980s, recognized and genuinely respected in Rome, largely unknown to the world beyond it. He never became a household name outside Italy. He didn't seem to want to be. Some actors chase the largest role available. Others find the truest one and give it everything they have. The captain may have lost his war, but Aldo Giuffre never lost his dignity. Every gun makes its own tune. Mario Brega as Corporal Wallace. He was a boxer before he was an actor, a real one, with real scar tissue around the eyes, and a face that needed no makeup department to look like it had absorbed 30 years of hard decisions. Mario Brega's path to Sergio Leone's films ran not through drama school or theater workshops, but through the gyms and rings of Rome, where Leone first spotted him and understood immediately that what he had was not a performance to be coaxed out, it was a presence to be pointed at a camera. Sadly, Mario Brega was gone by February 24, 1994, taken by illness at the age of 65, leaving behind a filmography that spans 3 Leone masterpieces and a quiet life that never made the gossip columns. Before this film, Brega had worked in physical labor and athletics, with no ambition to become a film star. Leone changed that, casting him first in A Fistful of Dollars and bringing him back repeatedly because the camera simply could not stop being interested in his face. After the Dollars trilogy, he continued working in Italian genre films through the 1970s and into the 1980s. Never a leading man, always indispensable, always the person on screen you watched without quite knowing why. Corporal Wallace was a man who followed orders, but Mario Brega spent 30 years proving that real authority doesn't come from rank. Luigi Pistilli as Father Pablo Ramirez, a deep, quietly unsettling voice, eyes that suggested a man who had thought seriously about things other people preferred to avoid. These were the tools Luigi Pistilli brought to Father Pablo Ramirez, a man of God trapped between his faith and his fear, and they made a supporting role feel necessary in ways the screenplay alone could not account for. He appeared in not 1, but 3 of Sergio Leone's films. This one, Once Upon a Time in the West, and Duck, You Sucker, and was regarded across Italy as one of the finer actors of his generation. Sadly, Luigi Pistilli died on April 21, 1996. He was 57 years old. The cause was suicide, a number and a fact that sit heavily, given everything he still had to give. Before Leone found him, Pistilli had spent years in Italian repertory theater, developing a technical command of the craft that translated seamlessly to screen. His particular gift was stillness, the ability to generate unease not by doing more, but by doing precisely the right thing at precisely the right moment. Outside Europe, almost no one knew his name. Inside Italy, his peers knew exactly what they had in him. The years after this film brought steady work in Italian cinema and television, respected by directors, undervalued by the industry at large. Some careers are shaped by timing, some by geography. The distance between those two things can be larger than anyone should have to bear. Father Ramirez sought forgiveness for sins he hadn't yet committed, and Luigi Pistilli deserved recognition for a body of work the world was simply too slow to see. Rada Rasimov as Maria. She appears in this film as a contact, still and watchful in the frame, present for only a few minutes before she disappears again, carrying secrets the story never fully explains. That quality of controlled withholding was something Rada Rasimov had spent years developing. Born in Romania in 1941, she built her career across the Italian film industry at a time when that industry was producing some of the most interesting genre cinema in the world. In 2026, Rada Rasimov is approximately 84 years old, one of the last surviving members of this cast, and a quiet reminder that the films of this era were built by people whose lives extended far beyond what any single frame could show. Before this film, Rasimov had established herself in Italian horror and genre pictures, working with directors who valued a face that could carry secrets. She had the rare quality of seeming to belong completely in whatever world the camera placed her in. After The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly, she continued working steadily through the 1970s, accumulating a body of work across Italian genre cinema that gave several generations of filmmakers a performer they could rely on. She never sought the spotlight this film briefly placed on her. She simply kept working, quietly, consistently, and on her own terms. Maria vanished into the film almost before the viewer could catch her name, but Rada Rasimov spent 4 decades building a career that never needed anyone's permission to continue. Al Wallach as the one-armed bounty hunter. There is one figure at the edge of this film's story that no one who knows it ever fully forgets. Al Wallach was a Canadian-born actor, intense, watchful, 3-4 years old, with a gaunt face that Leone recognized immediately when he needed someone to make an entrance that would make an audience hold their breath. His appearance as the one-armed bounty hunter at the film's opening is brief and striking, and he fills every second of it with a coiled, specific menace that announces the film's intentions before a single word is spoken. Sadly, Al Wallach did not live to see the lasting impact of his work. He was 34 years old when he took his own life in 1968, stepping from a hotel window in Burgos, Spain. still wearing the costume of the new character he was playing in Leone's very next film, Once Upon a Time in the West. He was the youngest person in this cast, and what he might have become in another decade is a question cinema never got to answer. Before these Leone films, Wallach had worked in British television and theater, crossing the Atlantic for roles that never quite matched the scale of his presence on screen. Leone used him twice because he understood what he had found. The world moved on before it could fully understand the same thing. The bounty hunter came looking for gold and found only the desert. But Wallach, for one blazing moment in the Spanish sun, found a role that still makes people stop the frame and ask, who was that?